The Beijing Islamabad equation of the 1960s. Archival material reveals China's strategic planning despite stated positions on Kashmir. Two conversations that Communist Party chairman Mao Zedong and Premier Zhou Enlai had in the 1960s with their Pakistani interlocutors reveal the nature of close consultation between the Islamabad and Beijing when it came to India. In comments to a visiting Pakistani minister, Mao was quoted as saying, "I once said to the former Indian ambassador, the younger R.K. Nehru, that our main enemy is the United States. You are not our enemy." Later, I ordered that Chinese soldiers are not allowed to shoot at the Indian army. A Chinese soldier ran to India and told them about it. They thought we would never shoot. They were very happy and went to our rear areas to walk around. We changed our plan. We increased our strength to 3.5 division, hit them, and then retreated. They were not expecting that. R.K. Nehru was India's ambassador to China from November 1955 to July 1958. Mao also reveals what it means for a country to be rich in his strategic view. The main thing is that if you can get rich, you will be fine. You will be able to boycott the United States, Britain, and India, and you will be fine. You will need to make weapons. Can you make them? Start by repairing them and move up to building them yourself later. The Chinese leader also asked Pakistani Commerce Minister Wahid Zaman in July 1964 why Pakistan did not fear the Communist Party but the capitalist, and then proceeds to answer his own question. The conversation is available in the Wilson Center's digital archive. I think this is because we have no conflict of interest and no border disputes. We don't want to encroach. We don't want to encroach on your land. You don't want our Tibet or Xinjiang either. Neither of us wants to exploit and oppress. We are equal, and as equals, we can be friends. Mao tells Zaman. We had gone We had good relations with India for several years. Then, when we took Tibet back, India got annoyed. India not only infringed on 90,000 square kilometers of Chinese territory, but they want all of Tibet as well. The Indian people are good, but capitalists like Jawaharlal Nehru are not good, Mao added. Zhao on Kashmir. Mao's conversation with Zaman and Chinese Premier Zhao Enlai talks with Bangla peasant leader Maulana Bashani in November 1963 also shows the depth of the discussion between Pakistan and China on Kashmir and other issues. Zhao takes great pains to emphasize why in public China advocates the route of bilateral talks between India and Pakistan to settle the dispute. If we were to say that we support self determination for the people of Kashmir, India would simply suggest self determin India would simply suggest self determination for the people of the Aksai Chin region in Xinjiang, following that it would raise the issue for Tibet. These are both our territory, why should they have self determination? He says. In Zhao's view, India wanted to occupy the Aksai Chin region, namely their so-called Ladakh. The Chinese premier said that while Pakistan wanted China to support the right of self-determination of the Kashmiris, but in fact our actions already go beyond this. A transcript of the November 1963 conversation also available in the Wilson Center Digital Archive stated we have settled the Sino Pakistani border question with you. The people of the world understand this, and it indicates that we acknowledge that this region belongs to you. Even though there remains something left unsaid, this is only because of the stipulations of international law. Ambassador Aga Mohammad Raza knows this, but we will talk after the sovereignty jurisdiction issue has been settled. Our concrete actions offer benefit than abstract statements. In fact, the right to national self determination is stipulated explicitly in the United Nations Charter, and the UN has also adopted a resolution of abstract principles. We have consistently supported these abstract principles of national self determination, but settling these issues require relying on concrete measures. Therefore, the two of us opposing India's aggression together is most concrete and effective. Both Mao and Zhou's comment suggest that the top Chinese leadership was far from averse to sending false signals to India or saying something in public or to safeguard their national positions like on Kashmir. As these two candid conversations reveal, India yesterday and today is dealing with a formidable adversary set abstract principles in a po- which can set abstract which can set abstract principles in opposition to concrete measures and whose foreign policy is guided by domestic compulsions.